Hey everyone, I'm Pat, and I'm here with,
I'm Whack.
and it's a special edition of the Weekly Orbit live. Well, not live, but when you see this, it won't be live. We're at ETH Denver, and we have a special guest with us, Samus.
Hello, everyone. Yes, I'm Samus. For a while, it was Seamus on the show.
It was Shane. I was calling him Seamus.
Yeah,
And we
Um,
even had a theory about how he was orange Seamus because he was Irish, maybe. So
Right.
that's
I was
not how it
laughing.
works.
Yeah, I was talking to Wack. I was like, no, it's orange because of Rocket Pool is orange. But
so, are you Irish? That is the question all the fans out there want to know.
I'm not Irish, unfortunately. So I had to let you down. But I am a Rocket Pooler, and that's why I'm orange. So
That's why you're here.
Wonderful. You're one of us.
yeah.
So we're going to talk about a little bit of ETH Denver. Of course, we'd have to. We're here, but then we're going to get into some of the exciting tokenomic changes that are being talked about. Samus, you've been knee deep in that, and we're really happy you're here to talk some details. But real quick, so far, Whack, how is ETH Denver?
I am exhausted. I woke up this morning and my son said I sounded like a monster because my voice was wrecked. It's a little bit better now, but I'm sure it's going to be horrible again by the end of the day. And it's been really, really great fun. I think I've talked to about 50 or 60 people already, like actually having conversations with them, met more than 100 people. It's been really, really great. I've enjoyed every minute of it.
I know last year you ended up sleeping on the floor at the Airbnb. How are your accommodations this year in 2024?
We so the Rocket Pool community kind of got two houses. They were set up by Roots. He did an amazing job choosing the houses. And what happened is the house that I'm staying in has been dubbed the Whack House, and that is now like party central. If
Whack
you want to
Shack?
call it. No, it's not Whack
That's
Shack.
why-
Whack Shack is something else. That's the island I'm going to build on Marcel's. No, that's
Okay.
the house I'm going to build on Marcel's Island. That's called the Whack Shack. That's already written. But this was the Whack House.
Mini Wack.
And people came and hung out there last night. It was really good fun, and we're going to do the same thing again tonight. So
Yes.
if you are watching this, you're welcome to come and hang out at the Whack House.
Yes.
Yes,
I
so-
guess NodeSet's going to be there, I heard.
That's right. They're going to be they're with Nick and Wonder just going to like have a chat with like maybe a short informal presentation and like take questions from people about what NodeSet is doing. I don't know too much of their plans, so I can't really say too much. But I'm really, really excited to hear their thoughts and like their plans for coming onto mainnet basically, and what that's going to mean for them.
Coming up.
So it's going to be really cool.
Awesome. Samus, how has ETH Denver been treating you so far?
It's been so fun. This is first ETH Denver for me. I've been to some other conferences here and there, but I was telling Wack yesterday, walking up to meet him, he is kinder in person than you would think, even from the podcast. But he just excitedly introduced me to everybody, and it was super fun. So I'm excited to spend more time with the community the next couple of days, really brainstorm some of the ideas, present some of the ideas, get to see what other people think about them, and yeah, but being in person just has something that's very different than being online, just the face-to-face interactions. It's been super fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Has anyone said anything about your height? What a big man you are?
So I get that comment, and it's not that I'm not that tall. I'm just like I'm 6'4", so I'm
Yeah. And he
Yeah.
took the smallest chair here. So,
Yeah.
like,
I'm,
the rest of us don't feel like we're.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
6 foot for reference.
Yeah, I'm 6'2". He's 6'4".
so we're all
But-
tall guys, but it's not
Yeah.
that. I'm not. Yeah, it's not that big a deal. It's not.
You can
I'm
tell
not-
on a podcast because you're
Yeah,
sitting.
I'm,
So.
I'm not like 6'7" or something, you know. So it's just a surprise for the first second, and then it's not a big deal after that. So yeah,
So, Samus,
Yeah,
let's talk about your cohesive proposal.
absolutely.
And I know you've been working with Valdorf on this, so credit to where credit's due. But my understanding is it's gone through some iterations. What can you just walk us through, kind of high level first?
Yeah.
Where are we at?
Yeah, so we'll be doing a presentation Sunday. So if you're interested, Rocket Pool has their own liftoff event. If you don't hear this till after, it should be recorded. We should have the information on that. But we went through a lot of iterations. The core ideas, though, are still the same. So it's really exciting. I think the main, if you boil it down to the simplest way to understand it, is you keep commission the same on what we already charge our ETH holders, but now we get to split. Some of that goes directly to RPL, and some of that goes to node operators. And so right now, RPL has been a requirement to be a node operator, so there's this indirect value capture, but we're switching it. So say, as a simple example, you only get 7% commission as a node operator, and then the rest goes to RPL. But right now, that's all RPL stakers are node operators. So it's kind of the same, but it opens up a whole new market for people who don't like RPL or aren't sure about it. And we've gotten to see a lot of really good feedback about that, and I think there's a lot of excitement for that. So
Yeah, one of the things that Pat was saying on the weekly orbit last week, right, is that at the moment the rocket pool market is only for people who have ETH and who have RPL. But the beautiful thing about some of the ideas that you guys have shared is it now gets three markets of people interacting with the protocol. You were saying this, like you were saying you can come with just ETH, you can come with just RPL, or you can come with RPL and ETH. So the number of people who can interact with the protocol will go up drastically because each requirement is less than what it is right now. So that's really exciting how you guys have kind of balanced those numbers. What was your thinking behind that? Like, why did you do that?
yeah, I think to start, it was really fun. For context, there was a bounty that was put out by Rocket Pool. So I think for a while there was, from my understanding, as I'm a little bit newer to the community, there's some rumblings of maybe we should change the tokenomics, but maybe not. I think Rocket Pool has really started to stagnate in the last 6 months or so. We're struggling to attract new node operators. So if you look at how much bond that node operators have put up, it's been pretty flat for a while. But what really sparked the idea for the bounty was Lido said, hey, we're going to compete by offering our own community staking module. So you can come in with just ETH. You don't need Lido. You don't need LDO token. And
it'd be like an LB4.
yeah, it would be like LB4. So you put up a 4 ETH bond and you earn commission on the other 28 ETH. And that would be something like 1.5 times more valuable in terms of the rewards that you earn compared to staking as a solo staker, as a solo validator. So with Rocket Pool right now, we're at like 1.1 times more profitable. So this would be really competitive, and we don't have a product right now to offer that could really compete with that. And it really sparked a fire, I think, under the butts of the community.
And I was one of the people who lit that fire. So yeah,
and it was,
Absolutely.
yeah, it was around that time I was like, oh, okay, the community is interested in changing. They're open to it. And I've never really contributed, but this seems like a really fun idea to submit a proposal for. And at that point, we're starting from scratch. I think everybody's okay with really evaluating everything. And I think some of these ideas had been around the community, but maybe the willingness to change and try them out was new. I could sense that too. So that was a really fun time to really start getting involved when there's openness. And from there, it's like, okay, how do we balance allowing people to come in with only ETH or only RPL? But really, especially the node operators is where we're constrained right now. And so that's where I think the first idea really started of, okay, we can let them come in, but they're going to basically give some of their commission to people who do stake RPL. And that allows RPL to hold its value, and it allows a lot of new people to join, and Rocket Pool can scale from there. So
let's talk about as I recall, the cohesive proposal is 4 ideas combined into one.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the bonding curve. All right. I think where we're at is 4. You'd have to have 4 ETH, and then 1.5s after that. Could you talk to us about that a little bit?
Yeah. So Valdorf really put all the information together for this, submit a proposal for that as well. And it's really exciting. Yeah, you could start, I think the initial bond is really important for MEV theft and even for abandonment, to be able to just have the node operators doing something malicious. As MEV is pretty rare, you can have something to start with of just that first initial capital. Once that's bonded together, then that can cover the example losses that our ETH holders would have from malicious node operators. But then after that, the 1.5 ETH is really to help cover the leakage. And from over time, you still have enough per validator. So Valdorf had a lot of research information on this, so we can go check those out. We can maybe put links for that. But it's really exciting because that means the capital efficiency there is scaled way farther than what it is today. So right now you put up 8 ETH, and then there's 24 ETH that can be minted from the protocol, and you're earning commission on that 24 ETH. But with 1.5, you put down a 1.5 ETH bond, you're earning commission on 30.5 ETH. And so now we can even lower our node operator commissions and still be 2 times more profitable, at least, than what we were now for node operator. And then the rest of that, now we have all this extra commission that can go towards RPL, which is really exciting.
So one of the things that I noticed was with the change, it makes it more efficient, right? So the amount of RETH that each node operator can mint increases a lot. And one of the examples I gave in my summary that I wrote was if you have 100 ETH and you bring it into the protocol now, you can you can get 12 validators that you mint with that. However, in the new system with the bonding that we're talking about just now, you could get up to 65 validators. So what impact will that have on our ETH? Can you talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, so Valdorf actually did a summary of that in the Discord, and he's since put that in his proposal. He's got a write up for it. But when you just look at the numbers, it's kind of mind blowing. So we've got roughly, I think, 2.8% market share of all the ETH that's staked right now. And if you look at how much node operator capital we have, I think it's around quarter of a million. And so you look at how much RETH can we mint from that quarter of a million bond that node operators have put up, and it goes from a market share of a little less than 3% all the way up to 18% market share. That's with no new node operators. That's scaling us almost all the way to where we want to get to, which is a soft limit would be 22% market share. So just think about that. It's wild how we don't even need to grow with node operators necessarily, and we have all this extra capacity as long as there's RETH demand.
And the way that's happening is just so much more efficient, right? Like the efficiency's been dialed up to 100%.
Yeah, so like you said, the amount of validators that supports is way higher with the same bond from a node operator. So that means RETH can have way more supply based on the same amount of bond from node operators.
Yeah, I saw it on the bonding curve. One example, if you had say you're a solo operator, you came with 32 ETH, you would be making 85% more doing Rocket Pool with your 4.4 and 1.5s than you would if you did it solo. I mean, that's almost double.
Yeah, it's
amazing.
Pretty wild. Yeah, there's a bond curve he has that shows up, and maybe a link to that image would be helpful.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where it's at first it's not quite as competitive as Lido because you put up 4 ETH and maybe your commission's a little lower than what you could get through Lido. But then especially as you start to lower that bond after the first two, that's why it's sublinear is okay, you put up 4 ETH, that gets you your first validator, put up another 4 ETH, you get one more. And after that, all you have to do is put up 1.5 ETH, and then you're getting commission on all that additional ETH that's from the protocol. And so that gets you scaled up to, I think right now, just looking at it, the asymptote is at 2.1x. Yeah. So it's if you come to Rocket Pool with all your ETH, you don't even have to worry about RPL. You can make 2.1 times more than if you're a solo staker. And that's just
amazing
as a baseline commission. That's not taking into account RPL or anything else.
So, I was going to ask just a follow-up. One concern that came up I read was there's talk in Ethereum to limit the amount of validators on the beacon chain. And, if you came in with 32 ETH, you would immediately be spinning up, I think, 14, 15, 16, I think
it's 18, yeah.
18 validators. So how is that, how do we get around that if there is a cap at some point put in on the amount of validators on the beacon chain?
Yeah, as far as Ethereum as a whole, I think that's a pretty open question still. I saw somebody posted recently, I can't remember his name, Angostor or something. He posted a summary of what is the ideal amount of stake that we want for Ethereum, because you don't want everything locked up in stake and then ETH doesn't have as much value as money to be used everywhere else, right? But what is the ideal amount? How do you limit it if you do try to limit it without centralizing? How do you keep home stakers being valuable? But outside of that, we just look at Rocket Pool. What do we do? And I think if we've got our own self-limit of the market share where we say 22%, we don't want to go above that. And then obviously protocol is 33%. At that point, you could start to influence how long things take to finalize and all that. But say we want to keep 22%, with all this additional efficiency that allows us to lower the node operator commissions, and more of that can go towards RPL. Because if we got all this demand, everybody wants to be a Rocket Pool node operator, well, we don't have to pay them quite as much if we're at a self-limit because we're not trying to grow anymore, right? So that just leaves extra commission that can go towards RPL.
Yeah, that's really great. Let's talk about what's going to RPL. So right now, you stake your ETH and you RPL together. You get ETH rewards from your ETH and you get RPL rewards from your RPL. How's that going to be going forwards? Will there still be any RPL rewards? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so there's some ideas we still need to decide on the RPL inflation, but just looking at how does the ETH commission change. So right now, it's every validator gets the same. New validators get 14% commission. So our ETH holders, they get most of the value from the revenue, but then they pay some commission to node operators. What that could be changed to potentially is we say, let's give node operators 5% instead. And because of the sublinear bonding, they can be even more profitable than they are now. And then we have, okay, an extra 9% to play with. What do we do with that? And so there's conversation. The idea right now that we're mostly thinking would be the best way to go forward would be, let's take 8%, and that just goes to buy RPL and then burn it. So it's basically becomes deflationary, where you can start to take supply out, and there's this constant buy pressure from ETH commission coming in. But then we do still need to decide, how can governance be incentivized? Because you got all these node operators, they staked RPL. What's the incentive to stake it and vote if you could just keep it liquid and not stake it and you're still getting all the same value? So we decided, let's put a slice of the commission to go towards RPL that's staked. And so that would be maybe like 1%. As long as it's still more profitable to stake it than do something else with it, we would expect people to stake it. And now you can participate in governance. And Rocket Pool governance, if you're not aware of, requires node operation and also RPL staked. So if you want to vote on things, you want to contribute decision making, you have to have both.
Is that 1% paid in RPL or in ETH?
So it would be ETH. Yeah, so that's a great point. So this is all ETH commission. We had 14%. Now it's 5% to node operators. 8% goes to burn RPL. And then maybe 1% of that ETH commission goes to node operators. And then RPL inflation, that's an open question. Do we want to scale it down over time? How do we fund the team and fund development? Maybe that's from ETH commission over time as the volume supports that. But it's a little bit undecided. You could also make it help bootstrap profitability for node operators by saying, let's take that RPL inflation, and instead of making it dependent on how much RPL you have staked, you just pay all node operators with it based on borrowed ETH. Like, how much are they borrowing from the protocol? How much ETH are they supporting? They'll get paid a little bit of RPL commission. So, or RPL inflation. So say RPL gets a lot more valuable over time, that can also incentivize node operators. But we do still need to decide some of the details of that. And so we're excited to kind of put all the proposals on the table, and then as a community say, what do we want to do?
That's really cool. Yeah.
Universal variable commission. That's another part of the cohesive proposal. Why don't you walk us through that? Explain what it is and what are we doing?
Yes, right. Yeah. So right now, commission is fixed. So every node operator, you sign up, and whatever your commission is when you sign up, it stays that for the lifetime of that validator. Where the challenge is, as we get towards sublinear bonding and the bonds can come down, what happens if that commission was too high? So say we're paying them a lot and node operators like that, and then turns out we wanted to lower that commission. The only way to do that right now is to give them something better. So originally we had 16 ETH bonds, then we lowered it to 8. So there's incentive to leave to come to something more valuable. But once you scale the bond all the way down to the bottom, there's not really going to be anything we can incentivize them with. So that's where you could have all validators now have the ability to change their commission, and it's controlled by the protocol. So we can set a commission for all validators and be able to respond to the market. If our ETH stagnates, and because there's not enough node operators, we can start to pay them more by increasing their commission. Or once we hit self-limiting, or we don't need any more new node operators, we can start to scale it down, and we don't have to find a way to get them to opt out of what they already have and come over to do something new. So I think it would be critical with the RPL value capture, since we're playing with all these commission variables, to have it something that we can still change in the future and not be locked in and require people to switch to a new validator to change the commission.
Yeah, and there's also some other stuff that's going into this idea, like forced exits is something that we're thinking of. Why is forced exits important? What's going on there?
Yeah, so especially with the sublinear bonding, when you've got your bond is leveraged so high, where you've got 1.5 ETH is supporting 30.5 ETH, our ETH. At that point, what happens if a validator starts acting maliciously, or a node operator starts acting maliciously? Or what if they just abandon their node? I mean, things happen. Maybe they didn't have a good setup plan. Maybe they got hit by a bus. Yeah.
They die. I mean,
what do you do? And it's right now, it's just that is drag on the whole protocol. That node is just sitting there racking up penalties, and at a certain point, it goes through their whole bond, and yeah, it's not helpful to Rocket Pool. Versus if we can exit them and recover their bond, it's actually better for the node operator and it's better for our ETH, because maybe the node operator, like in that case, somebody died, maybe their spouse, it takes them a long time to figure out how to recover it. Maybe they are able to recover it eventually, but what if they got leaked out of their whole bond right away? And they actually would have benefited from Rocket Pool exiting them, and now it's just waiting for them whenever they're ready to claim it. So
Yeah, we recently had that happen. I know Patches was helping a spouse. Their spouse passed away. They were a node operator, and it took you go through that grieving process of your spouse dying, but then also having to try to figure out how he's got this crypto and this ETH and this node. Why I don't know what I'm doing, and it would be helpful to have a forced exit where they at least once they get around to figuring out how I can withdraw it, that principle is still there. Right?
yeah, it didn't get just leaked out, and you're not racing against the clock trying to figure out, if you go offline, well, I don't know how to restart this, and yeah, so.
Okay, so we've covered two, I think, and there was four. What's the third of the cohesive?
Yeah, so we had sublinear bonding, we had RPL value capture, which is changing that. We talked about universal variable commission. That was the third one. I think the fourth one, as an example, was RETH protection. So that's a smaller version of forced exits, and that's maybe before you exit them, you want to be able to take their lost commission and basically their lost principal and give it back to our ETH. So we've got some whales in the community. They're incredible. They're helping support the protocol. But what happens if they go offline? And especially once things are leveraged as high as they are right now, the incentive to do that is, well, I get punished and also our ETH gets punished, and it gets split out where we both get punished. The goal with RETH protection would be don't punish our ETH, basically punish the node operator only, and only punish their bond and give it to our ETH until they cross some threshold where we want to exit them. But maybe there's some amount that we want to, before we kick them out, we want to just take from their rewards, or maybe we start to write a debt so that when they do exit, it comes out of their principal. But some way to help protect our ETH and give it a competitive APY. Because right now it's like, okay, what if Rocket Pool's performance isn't quite as good as Lido or some of the other ones? Well, this could help with that. It says we're going to take from the node operator and use that to help give our ETH a competitive yield.
Okay, so all of this is great. It's so good. Why aren't we doing it today? What's going on?
Yeah, let's talk about timelines on some of this stuff, and maybe you can fill us in and our listeners is everyone we've talked to gets excited. And the second question is, when is this happening? And that's a little more complicated. Yeah. So why don't you talk to us about timelines?
Yeah, it's exciting to be here in person where we can talk to the team, the community can come together, we can all discuss the proposals and potential timelines. I think the things we know for sure, Houston is about to be released. That has a few changes. After that, Saturn was scheduled as a next upgrade in the name, at least, and there's a few proposals that are already going into that. But then what else do we put in Saturn? And do we split Saturn up into multiple proposals? So I think that's where some of the workshopping would happen this weekend. I think there's a lot of the proposals that don't need any Ethereum upgrades. We could just do them today as long as governance approves it and developers can implement it in time. But
so stop you there. So which of these four that we just talked about could be done without the next Ethereum hard fork?
Yeah, so I need to talk to the GigaBrain developers. But I think at a first glance, it seems like the RPL value capture, that should be possible regardless of any of the other major changes. That's just changing on the contract how we split up the commission. We talked about universal variable commission should probably be hand in hand with that so that we can still have control to change those. I think those two could be really valuable and have a chance to be upgraded before waiting for the next Ethereum upgrade, Pectra, but we'll see. We'll talk to the community. And then I think some of the other ones, like sublinear bonding, that's going to take forced exits, which depends on EIP 7002, which, requires Pectra, which might be in this upcoming fall, but things get delayed. You never know. So there's definitely some things I think we can do before then that would provide a lot of value, allow ETH-only node operators to come join maybe, and that starts to generate some interest instead of trying to do it all together all at once and wait a really long time. But it's up to the community and to the developers, I think, the team.
So how has this been for you personally? Like, you said you've come to the community recently and now everyone's paying attention to like what you're saying and like the work that you're doing. How has that experience been for you?
It's so fun. Yeah, I think for anybody who's considering contributing but they're not sure how, I think even just asking what are some things that we need to do as a community, I think is really helpful for me. I started out just kind of in the Discord, reading stuff, lurking, not really contributing, and then it helped that there was a bounty where they said, "Here's a framework. Like we want proposals. We're asking people to come in." And then it felt like I had a place to at least throw an idea out there and see if it sticks. And I think at that point it was exciting to see, wait, this community engages. They're okay with hearing new ideas. We're willing to change. And there's actually a place for you, and there's a pocket for whatever talents you have or whatever you're interested in contributing. Yeah, jump in, and it's really fun to do so. But that's been my experiences. It's really only been the last few months that I really started with that bounty that happened just only a few months ago. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Yeah.
We were talking offline before we started recording about how was it getting paid in crypto for your first time, and
Yeah.
you smiled and you're like, oh, this is so cool. Can you talk about that? Getting paid in crypto for doing work.
Yeah, it's fun to you have this conceptual, okay, here's how crypto can work and here's how a DAO could work where there's no central company that's writing the paychecks to people, but it's all kind of theoretical. And then there's one day where you're like, okay, I'm gonna just contribute. I don't know if this is gonna go anywhere, but I'm just gonna try. And then to see later, it's like, wait, okay, there's engagement, and then okay, this did well enough to receive positive results from the bounty, and then getting to see like I was kind of confused. It's like, wait, when does this come in? How does this work? So there's no process like in a company where you've got a document that explains it all. We don't need to because it's so simple with crypto. It just gave the address, and one day I checked my wallet, and there it was. And so it's like, wow, okay, this is something that's global. Anybody can contribute anywhere in the world, and as long as you got internet access, you can write your paycheck. You don't have to worry about all these barriers in the middle. So it's pretty fun.
What I'm hearing here is a glowing recommendation of the GMC, the amazing work that we do.
Yes.
Getting you guys money, getting all of us money actually.
Yeah.
So yeah, great, good job for the GMC. Yeah, that's what I'm hearing. So yeah.
BDAO approves of GMC's work so far.
Absolutely. We got anything else we want to talk about while we got the mic?
No, I'm just if you are not at Denver this year and if you're following along from home, definitely check out Denver Liftoff. That's going to be streamed, recorded as well. Samus is going to be there, like presenting a more detailed version of the ideas that we talked about here, and going into a lot more depth about what their suggestions and their proposal is covering. Because I think you and Val have kind of merged your proposal into one, right? Pretty much.
Yeah, it's pretty much just one. We had some different ideas of how could this work, and then the more we talked about it, I think we're presenting just one idea on Sunday. And yeah, I forgot to mention one of the other main ones, but it's already been talked about, was mega pools. So I don't know if we want to get into that. Save that for another time. But
Megapools, I think like most of the community knows about that because we've been talking about it for a while. But it's just an idea of how all your validators will be on one, like it'll be node level instead of validator level, and it'll just be one contract for all your validators.
Right.
So what happens there as well is it moves collateral from the node level from the validator level to the node level, which means that you can punish the node operator across all their validators at the same time, which then opens up the efficiencies for the sublinear bonding.
right, yeah, without mega pools, sublinear bonding wouldn't work either. So that's an example of gotta wait for that one. But yeah.
Yeah, and I was just talking to Langers earlier about megapools, and one of the major benefits is we were talking about being able to spit up all these validators. Well, under the current system, you'd have to have, say, you had 14 validators. That'd be 14 separate smart contracts. I mean, you're paying gas
A lot of
14
gas.
different times,
Yeah.
and then claiming your rewards 14 times, and then exiting 14 times. The megapools is they're almost 100% sure it's going to be one transaction to set up the mega pool, which can include one validator or 1,000, and then one transaction to claim, and then one transaction to exit. And that's going to save the efficiency on gas is going to be amazing.
Yeah, and I think somebody mentioned this as an analogy of how much weight can one toothpick hold. It's not that much, but you put a ton of toothpicks together, now it can hold a little bit more weight. And so it's similar with sublinear bonding. It's like, okay, we got to make sure one toothpick was enough, but now when we can put them together, yeah, you can have a lower bond total and it supports more weight together.
It's amazing.
Well, I think that's a good talk. I think we've run our time as well. Samus, thank you so much for joining the Weekly Orbit. It's been a pleasure meeting you and having you come on and give us so much alpha, as they say. And WAC, we're going to be, we'll see people at the workshop this week on Saturday and Sunday. A whole bunch of speakers, almost like a TED Talk for
That's
Sunday.
the format, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, it's a TED Talk format. So if you can't join in person, it's going to be streamed live. But thanks for watching and listening and being part of the Rockefeller community, like Wack always says. Samus, thanks for being here, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.